this! Incredible! This is
The Grove Podcast.
Hello, my name is Tabs and welcome to episode 200 of The Grove Podcast. Now, thank you for listening and I hope you are all doing very well. So, 200 episodes, blimey, who'd have thought? And and with that again, I would like to thank all the listeners who have listened, obviously, subscribed over the past couple of years, either from the very beginning or those that are new to the pod or somewhere in between. And if you haven't subscribed yet, why not? And why not go and do it right now? And then once you're done, you can come back and listen to the rest of the pod. Anyway, thank you for being listeners. And look, we continue to grow steadily. We continue to try and bring out new and varied content like our community pods, Hot Off the Pitch, our new after review pod. And there's also more to come very soon. And whilst we continue to enjoy doing the pods and you continue to listen, hopefully we can get to 400 episodes and more. And just one thing before we actually get to the actual pod itself. Cheech, a regular listener and someone I sort of chat with on the socials, he asked if we could do a little bit of an origin story on the Grove, on the WhatsApp group that we reference and how the pod came about. So if you're so inclined, we'll be doing a little bit on that, a short section on that at the end of the pod. Anyway, that's enough self-indulgence for now. And as far as the pod's concerned, today we're going to be looking at the Champions League draw, which is just dropped a few minutes ago. We're going to talk about some transfer sagas and then we're going to preview Monday night's game against Aston Villa. And joining me today to do that is Jamie. How are you doing? And you've been on the pod since the very beginning. You were one of the first contributors. Did you ever think we'd get to 200 episodes?
Definitely not. No. I was somewhat concerned that the small investment that I made in the podcast, along with everybody else that contributed, was going to be a rather foolhardy exchange of bad investment, basically. So no, well done.
And we're still here. Well, you're part of that, so well done to you too. And there we go. And look, as I said, we'll talk about how it came about a bit towards the end. Right. So Champions League draw, and actually this is Jamie actually doesn't know what the draw is. So what I'm going to do is bring it up on the screen if I can. And where's the share button? I do this 100 times a day on bloody Teams. I should know. And I'll share that now. So here we go. Arsenal have picked up Real Madrid at home, Bayern Munich away.
Hang on a minute. You just brought that up. I thought for a minute that was a group that were in there, and seeing like Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, and Borussia Dortmund. I just realised, of course.
Well, it
doesn't even work like that anymore. It's a league table, isn't it?
No, exactly. So yeah, Madrid at home, and this isn't the order. I think the order of the games comes out Saturday, but until then, people are going to be checking flights, and therefore there's going to be a lot of surge pricing going on. So I'd urge you to just do it in incognito mode. And wait for Saturday morning to find out, the order of who we play and when and so on. So anyway, Real Madrid at home, Bayern Munich away, Dortmund at home, Betis away, Lille at home, Napoli away, Sabah. I don't even know who they are. Sabah, yeah, I know.
I'm just thinking immediately of like Phoenix Knights. That's just straight away. That's in my head.
Absolutely, and Slavia Prague. Whilst we're here, where's Sabah from? So I think they're the team from Kazakhstan replacing the other one. Is this Libya?
I'll tell you what, it doesn't matter where they're from. That's going to 0 away points, isn't it? Jesus Christ.
No, away. No, that's the home game. So Azerbaijan. Okay. That's it. Azerbaijan. So yes,
Azerbaijan,
so there we go.
Okay.
Azerbaijani team. So yeah. So they've
fabulous,
they I think they've replaced the Kairat Almighty team. So that's who we got. So what's your first impressions of those 8 league games?
That's a really strong lineup of teams. That is. I mean, it's funny actually. I genuinely was coming into this just expecting 3 teams because I've completely forgotten the format of the Champions League has changed for the last 2 seasons.
It's only been yes, exactly.
So yeah, but looking at it, I mean, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, that's definitely 2 of the stronger teams that you can get from pot 1, right? And then, yeah, I mean, looking at then Borussia Dortmund, okay, it's not the worst. Betis, not the worst, although they did just do us 3-1. But, hey, Hector Bellerin again. That'd be nice. But then Napoli in pot 3. That feels quite strong.
Yeah. And
as
Lille
does
as well.
Lille. So, yeah. But yeah, looks fun. I mean, at the end of the day, look, it's another chance to... We have finished top for 2 seasons running now, haven't we? Or did we certainly
we were
finished top last season. The season before that was at Inter.
Yeah, and I think we were second or third or something like that. But
third,
something like that. But yeah, we weren't top. I mean, I think that we finished. I can see us getting results against all of these ones. Bayern away is the biggest one. That would be a real statement. We beat them. We beat them at home last year, comfortably in the end.
I'm looking at some of these other ones though.
Yeah.
I'm looking at some of these other teams though. There's definitely fixture lineups that I'd have preferred, right? You'd happily take.
Yeah, I mean,
if you look at these rather than ours.
If you look at Liverpool have got a relatively comfortable draw. Like, if you're going to pick the 2 out of pot 1,
yeah, looks great.
Inter and Atleti would be the 2. Porto should be fine. Club Brugge. I mean, the fact that Club Brugge in pot 2, Villarreal, Fenerbahce pot 3, Lens and Lask. So that's relatively comfortable. Real Madrid, they're relatively comfortable as well with Inter and PSV, Roma, Leipzig, Shakhtar.
I think you'd love all of those. Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think we've had quite a harsh draw there, but at the same time, we've beaten Bayern Munich last season. We've beaten Real Madrid over 2 legs. We should be fairly confident going into those games, I think. And certainly I look at that and I go, we'll progress. To be honest, I mainly look at the league phase in general and just think we'll progress. Simple as that. And I'm not that convinced with the way that the league phase is now. I'm not even that massively convinced that, your position in the league is actually that influential on what occurs in the playoffs.
If you finish top 2, it definitely makes a difference, because I mean, you look at the run that we had. There's no doubting it. We had a friendly, shall we say, run to the final. In terms of playing Sporting Lisbon, playing Atletico Madrid. I can't remember the team that we had before that. So we had a relatively comfortable run, and you play the home games first as well if you get to the knockout stages. So I think I think it can make a difference. I mean, primarily finish top 8. Then if you can finish top 2, then that's it, and we'll see. Because look, you saw what happened the previous years. Liverpool had to play PSG en route to the final a couple of years back.
That's the thing. I'm mainly thinking of the first year when we had that first year. Definitely, I think the after the league, because I think City and Madrid and PSG all scraped it that year, right? So they all absolutely scraped in, coming in like 6th, 7th, 8th, or something like that. One of them might even have had to do the extra round, and so as a result, that just looked like a real, it's a real mess of is there any advantage being in a better place in this league, right? But last season, you absolutely make a valid point. We did, as soon as that draw came out, I think we all looked at it and just went, whoa, fantastic, we're going to the final, aren't we? Book your tickets to Budapest, boys, was pretty much, the reaction, wasn't it?
Well, I actually have got a flight to Madrid booked, and I've got accommodation because the final's in Madrid. So I haven't got a flight back yet, but it's all refundable and no cost. Man City look like they got a bit of a challenge. They got Paris at home, but Barcelona away, Napoli at home, Leipzig away. So that could be interesting. Who are the other English clubs?
Portugal pot 2 for them as well. They've got both Sporting and Porto.
Yeah. I would have quite liked that. I think I might have been able to wrangle a work trip, but there we go. Who else have we got? Villa. Villa have got a toughie. They've got Paris at home, Barcelona away, Dortmund at home, Galatasaray away, Fenerbahce. They got double grease. Man United. Interesting one. Atleti and Bayern, Roma, Leipzig, Villarreal. That could be. They got some friendly. They're the lucky ones. They're going away to Como. I think a lot of the regular travelling fans wanted to go away to Como, but maybe Cesc can do a favour there. So
Como a decent side. Out of the teams that are in the Dolmeo, they're not bad at all.
Yeah, and what about Villa? Where's Villa? I can't find Villa on here. There were Pot. Oh, here we go. Oh, I think I just said them. Yeah, Villa. That's it. So there we go. Look, we'll see. It is what it is. They'll do the draw, and that will really tell, because then we'll see you know where it fits with our season's fixtures, home and away. Because like again last year, I think we seem to be always at home after an away fixture in Europe. So I think a lot of things fell our way last year, and maybe this year we're just not going to get those things falling for us. And I think we talked about it loads of times last season where things just fell our way to help us win the league. So even something just, it may seem like nothing, but playing at home after every Champions League away trip just makes a difference. I think that can make a difference.
So away is going to be Slavia Prague, Napoli, Betis, and Munich. Okay.
Munich, yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Not at least
well,
travelling wise. At least
lovely set of places to head to actually as well. I mean, Christ, that's a fantastic lineup of cities. That includes my favourite European city in Naples, and yeah, I mean that's the one. Yeah.
That's the one that's got a bit of a rep, though. Unfortunately, it's a beautiful city. May not be the best for visiting supporters. So I'm definitely going to be going full on Italian if I get to go. So.
Yeah, I mean that's very, very, very understandable in fairness, but yeah.
So anyway, let's see. I think luckily we're not having to go Sabah away. If you have to play Sabah away, I think that's always a bit of a challenge in terms of distance. We're not going to Bodo Glimt on their artificial surface and up to the Arctic Circle. Turkey's always a bit of a challenging one to get there and back and stuff like that. So I think, look, it's the luck of the draw, as they say, and we'll take it as it comes. But I think comfortably top 8. I think we've got an opportunity to go top 2. Will we go unbeaten again? I think with Bayern Munich away, maybe we want to go there and make a statement. Maybe we want to go there and, like, for once right now, you know, we can win at Bayern and the team that we are. Yeah, it could be an interesting one if we play them early in the season, because often the case is with when you're playing these teams like Madrid, like Bayern, whatever, we're already battle hardened. We're already playing week in, week out in tougher games, and early in the season, especially this side of Christmas. I can't believe I've said that word in bloody August. This side of the new year or whatever, they tend to not be as strong until after, when they come into their own, when they're resting players and they come into their own. So again, if we play them early on, we might have a chance. But let's see how it pans out. Let's say Saturday morning, I think that's when it all comes out, and that's when the surge pricing begins. Okay.
Lovely.
And actually, for those who are interested, so like now, Reds and Silvers, you know, it's going to be easier to get tickets for away games. So something like Bayern, most probably will drop to 0. Something like Napoli will drop to 0. So if you're looking to get your first away point,
I'll be buying tickets to both of them. I'll be buying plane tickets to both, and then just hoping to hell that I'll get a chance to sort myself out with a ticket for them.
Yeah. So there we go.
I think
so
Prague
that's the
as well.
Prague's the one that's only about 1,000 in terms of allocations.
Was it really?
So
1,000?
Yeah, and we were there last
Slavia
year, and I
Prague.
think we were in Prague. I think we played. Did we play Slavia or Sparta Prague? I don't know. We played Prague last year, and that's quite a tough one. But Bayern Munich's about 3,000. Napoli's about 3,000. Betis, it depends, because I think they're playing in a temporary stadium at the moment, which has like got 70,000. So who knows what the allocation will be for that? But even then, their home ground's about 3,000. So at least with Napoli and Bayern Munich, there's a good chance on 0 points. But my actual highlight of the draw was this.
The Arsenal.
So classy. Love that. He had to get it in, the Arsenal. I love that from Thierry Henry. So good on him for doing that. All right, okay. So that's the Champions League draw. And once the actual game set of games comes out, and when we get to play our first game, we're going to obviously go and do a bit of a deeper dive in the impact on the season. But for now, that's that, and we'll take it as it comes. Right. So transfers. The window slams shut on, I think it's either the 31st or the 1st. So there's only a few days left, and things are starting to ramp up all over the place. as far as Arsenal's concerned, very quickly, Ornstein tweeted that today Reiss Nelson has agreed a deal with Arsenal to terminate his contract by mutual consent. So he becomes a free agent. And look, he's 25, 26, and he's still got plenty of time to have a half decent career. And look, it just never really worked out at the Arsenal. We'll always have at least Bournemouth, which was one of the greatest moments in Emirates history. So we can always thank him for that, and we hope he does go on to have a bit of a career. But any thoughts on Reece's time at Arsenal, what he could do in the future?
No, it's a weird one, isn't it? It just feels like it's been so bloody long since he was a promising player and came through and got a few games under Arsene, and then that fantastic first 7 or 8 games that he had at Hoffenheim on loan. When I was absolutely gassed, like looking forward to him coming back. I think he scored 3 or 4 goals in his first 7 games over in Germany, and then actually struggled to get starts. I think for the same feedback that all Arsenal fans have had for years, which is he's a player who weirdly can make a really good little impact in like 10 to 20 minute spells, but you'd start him for 90 minutes and you just go missing. So I think as well, similarly, you had the loan out of Fulham. He didn't really manage to do much, did he? So I know there was talk about him going out on yet another loan this year, or
West Ham. Yeah.
It feels like now what's probably happened is we can't reach any kind of agreements favourable for the club. Let him go, take a little bit of a hit, reduce the amount of mutual, termination fee or whatever, and he's going to go off to West Ham, right? And hopefully he does something, because I would imagine this is the one club that seems to have been very interested. Hopefully he goes there.
Yeah.
But he's 26, 27. It'd be nice for him to get a couple of years playing football somewhere proper, but it does feel like he's probably just not somebody who grabs games by the scruff of the neck enough to justify being played in a Premier League team, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing also he was accused of, and Arteta wouldn't particularly like this, is he was safe. And I think Arteta likes players that try things and all the rest of it. So he would do the safe stuff, the simple pass, and he wouldn't express himself and so on. I think that's been mentioned before. And he would go out there and just try something, do something. You've got the freedom to do that, and he just wouldn't. And so he just never really was an Arteta player. So he doesn't look
like he's backed his own talent at all for most of his career. Is the thing with Reiss Nelson. He was an interesting player. He kind of morphed into a winger. He played quite a lot of 10 when he was young. And I do think he sometimes kind of felt like a player who's been, I've kind of felt like he's been out of position for a lot of his senior career, to be honest. But I don't think he was ever anywhere near good enough to be a 10 at a top club. So therefore he gets moved out to the wing. But then he just doesn't influence games enough on the wing, because he doesn't back himself to kind of go round players on the, or certainly to hit the byline in the way that you'd need him to. So yeah, it's maybe a little bit of a victim of a bit of a late change. It wasn't until he was when he moved up from the under-19s to the under-21s, he started playing a little bit wider, but was most often still deployed in the 10 role. And as soon as he hit the first team squad, he was never yet anywhere near playing 10. So maybe that hampered him a little bit as well. Maybe he's been out of position for a long time. I don't know. But
yeah, no. It's a shame,
because there's a lot of talent there.
Yeah, no, but good luck to him. And yeah, it's a shame. Brentford. I would have thought Brentford would be in perfect place for him, but I think he got an injury and never really got into the team and so on. And I think Brentford's health in the wide areas, Altara and Sharda, seemed to restrict his playing time. Look, I think if we had to go on loan, I think we would have had to sub whatever loan it was, because he's on about 100k, and even if he goes to West Ham, they're not paying 100k for him on loan. So I'm sure the bean counters have worked it out and said, look, we'll give you a nice signing off fee, a thank you for Bournemouth, bunch of cash, now go and make a career for yourself, thank you very much, sort of thing. So yeah, good luck to him.
Isn't it? That generation of all the players that he broke through with, and there were a few really good youngsters in that effectively the players who were looking to break into Arsene Wenger's last side. Eddie Nketiah obviously has, is kind of a bit lost at the moment, I think, since the Palace move. Nelson is looking somewhat lost, and I think, quite a few of them that have kind of gone missing a little bit of those that were promising at the time. The only one that I really see doing particularly well at the moment is Daniel Ballard, who went right down the leagues and never really had the chance in the first team, where the other lads did, and is now pushing his way back up. The other ones being obviously Alex Iwobi. Iwobi's done well, in fairness, but Iwobi arguably is a bit earlier than these lads, in fairness. But yeah.
They chose to go away. They chose to move on, and maybe he was an easy street. We never know. We don't know the details, and it's all some of it can be quite personal and whatever. So, and as I said, we've now that's it for Arsenal and Reece Nelson. I say good luck to him. So moving on to another talent that we've, I would say, outgrown. So Martinelli. It does seem like the club are getting ready to move him on and move on from him. I think as much as we as fans love him, and he's been with the club for about 7 years, and he was a breath of fresh air at the time, and his passion and the way he operated, and he came in scoring goals and looked a bit different. And was he a winger? Was he a centre forward? Because he certainly scored some centre forward type goals. We love him for what he's done at the club and given to the club. But I think we as fans have been sort of ready to move on from him for a while, for maybe a season or two, and it just seems like we've progressed past him, and that doesn't make him a bad player. I think he's still an excellent player, and I think he could still offer us something. But sometimes, is that enough? What is that he's offering? And maybe sometimes, even if we're not replacing him with something better, just a change needed for both parties is what's needed to particularly for him, because if he's going to stalling his career here, there's no point. Yes, he could offer a little bit. Yes, he can collect his wages, but sometimes, you just drift apart, and it looks like he may be going to Al Hilal for around 50 million, and that in itself has generated a ton of discussion, posts, arguments, and the like on many aspects around this. So, the first thing is, I think Ian Wright alluded to something. Do you think this has been handled poorly by the club for someone who's been with us for like 7 years, who has contributed so much, who's a champion, a Brazilian international, and the like? Yeah, does the way potentially that make it feel a bit uneasy?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because he seemed to assert that the player doesn't know what's going on. I think something that has been interesting is that apparently, obviously, Martinelli was very keen not to move to anybody not in the top 5 leagues, and then that position has changed as a result of apparently a big chat with Arteta, just making it clear that there basically isn't a place for you here. So, if you stay beyond the deadline, all you're doing is kind of going to hurt yourself effectively, I think is the message. And it's a bit of a weird one, doesn't it? It feels really cold and quite harsh if that's the case, because Gabriel Martinelli has definitely contributed tremendously to us over the last few seasons. At the same time, I do understand the position that, look, we think you're stagnating. We think you're stalling. We don't think you're moving forward at this point. There isn't going to be a new deal at any stage in the future. Therefore, we would like to get you going as a saleable asset. I understand, the cold business side of that. And then with Wrighty's position, as say, it seemed to be that he knew something at the time, that the player felt like he was in the dark. So I don't know. It's a bit of a strange one. If it was the case, the player was in the dark, and then I can kind of get it. But in terms of players being told they've got no future and they have to disappear, that's been going on in football since year dot, right? George Graham did that to plenty of people. Arsene Wenger did that to a few people. Players get told, you're not making it here. You need to disappear. That is the position that some players are in. And so, I think the bit that tugs at the heartstrings for us is just the fact that, he's been with us since he was a kid. He was such a bright spark. He was a real bright spark under Unai Emery when we were, struggling for things to be excited about. And then in the early days of Mikel Arteta, when he was absolutely fantastic, when he came back from injury and looked like he was going to be a real powerhouse. And yes, he's frustrated us, but at the same time, we love him, and he's always come across. There's a couple of quotes of his in the past about, how he feels like he was destined to be at Arsenal and stuff like that. So glad I didn't go to Manchester United, etc., etc. They're the kind of quotes that just endear you massively to a Gooner. So yeah, it feels crap, but at the same time, I don't think it's probably anything that's that out of the ordinary versus what happens at other clubs.
Yeah, it is football, and I think that you've got to think there's a difference between you aren't in the matchday squad, you aren't in the team, and this is why not. So maybe there's a tactical reason, or maybe he wants to develop Dauman or whatever. Versus, sorry, your career at the club has ended, and none of those discussions are easy. I can't imagine Arteta hasn't spoken to him, because that's not his style. That's not his MO. Now, I did say, in the previous pod that, managers don't talk to players all the time. Sometimes not even on the training pitch one particular day, or maybe they don't speak to him for 2-3 days. And there's so many people they have to, do, and there's so many things they have to do. But maybe they don't. But I'm sure Arteta will have spoken to him. It may be on the Berta side of things that Berta operates a bit differently, that he may be a bit colder. He's not so. And sometimes you need that good cop, bad cop thing, and these are grown men, and it's the way of the world, and they've remunerated nicely for it, and I think the truth lies somewhere in between. So we don't know everything that's going on, and I think Arteta cleared up some stuff today, saying we have spoken to these guys. He didn't really go too much into what about, but so I think there is clarity. There is some clarity there now. The money being touted around £50 million. Do you feel that's good value, good money? Considering the ridiculous numbers that are being spent on mediocre and non-mediocre players this summer?
Not in this market, no. But I think it was quite clear with Gabriel Martinelli is that there's not a ton of suitors for him, right? And there's probably a couple of reasons for that. His wages are, I think he's on somewhere around about the 200 mark from his last deal, which I think also is a fair amount to be paying him as well. I don't think this was a Reece Nelson, we jumped the gun. I think it felt like it was a market rate deal for the player that he was at that particular moment in time. And I think we've had good value out of it. But ultimately, it does mean that it limits you somewhat on some of the teams that you can flog him to. And it limits the way that clubs might want to attract him as well. It's not necessarily going to be with that much bigger a deal is a big part of it too. So it's not just whether somebody can afford it. It's whether somebody can make it attractive, right? Because he's in a different position to Reece Nelson. If Reece Nelson gets offered £100,000 by West Ham, I'm sure he's absolutely delighted. If Martinelli gets offered £200,000 a week by West Ham, there's still no reason to go there, right? The only reason to go there is if they're going to significantly up the money, which then means you then introduce him to the clubs that have been mentioned, which have been Galatasaray, who are at the moment throwing money at anybody, and the other one being then I think is it Al Hilal or is it Al Ali? Al Hilal are the ones after Watkins, aren't they?
I don't know. No, I think they're both. I don't know. I just think basically Saudi buys the players and say, right, who wants this one? Who wants this one? I have no idea the names of the club or who they go to. So, and because I pay very little attention to that league, I just think
it's Al Hilal for him. Yeah. So it's Al Hilal.
It's Al Hilal for him.
Yeah. So anyway, look, whatever, it would be I think with him it would probably be like it has for several other players like John Duran and some of the other boys that have gone out to Saudi Arabia, where you basically just go, I'm going to pit stop over here for a year or two. And that would be the position that he'd be in, right? I don't think Gabriel Martinelli's long-term career is going to play in Saudi Arabia for 6, 7, 8 years. But I think it's I disappear over there for a year, kind of play a few times for Brazil, enjoy a year of not playing too massively, and then I disappear off to another club on loan or something. And for God's sake, I hope he doesn't turn up at fucking Newcastle at some point, though. But we'll see. So yeah, if he goes and car parks himself there, fine. But 50 million for me doesn't feel like the right amount of money at all. But I think we're pegged into that situation because of a number of factors.
Yeah. It's not
players worth what somebody will pay for him, right? And if we're in a position where we've made it very clear that he has no future in order to get him out the door, so we're pushed into that position by the player because the player wants to be here. It's that weird thing. If the player really doesn't want to be there, it devalues them. If the player is being pushed out, it devalues them. If the players just fucking wanted and is everybody's silent on the matter, that's when you get good money, right? But we're not in that position. We're in a position where we're having to shove them out the door, and we don't have a big number of suitors. So yeah,
and we're not cooking the books like Chelsea, City, Villa, and stuff like that. You know, so that's nice. And look, maybe, you know, as I said, you're not long left on his contract, high wages, surplus requirements, but he is pure profit. So whatever we get from him is pure profit. So maybe there isn't that incentive to bump that up because, okay, we take the 50 million because, you know, his 6 million fee that we paid for him has been amortized. So yeah, it's all profit. And maybe we don't have the relationships yet with Saudi. So we give them one here. We make this one an easier one. So therefore, it's an investment into future when we do try and get a bit more overinflated prices from them on other players in the future. So, you know, other clubs have the relationship with Saudi and seem to sell to them. Well, we don't. So maybe it's about establishing that relationship there already and say, look, we did you a favour here. Now you do us a favour there, sort of thing in the future. Because also I've got a feeling nobody likes Berta, so we just don't get any. No one likes Arsenal, and no one likes Berta, so I don't think we're getting any favours from anyone anywhere. So I think we maybe need to drop on this one because it's all pure profit, and then when we need to really cash in on someone, then we do that at a later date. So that's potentially it. But yeah, and it's weird. I was wondering, will he actually? You know, he's obviously all Brazilians love their international career, and they're one of the nations that actually it's country over club a lot of the time. I wonder if he will have, you know, he's 25. Do players still get to play for Brazil while they're out the limelight?
Well, bear in mind they're on the, you know, obviously there's the Copa Sudamericana, right, which is or the Libertadores, whatever you want to call it, but it's that's not for another couple of years, right? It's the perfect time. Go over there, reset. I think a few players did manage to get games whilst in China and Saudi Arabia for Brazil. Okay. I think Paulinho managed to get a few games. I think Oscar when he was in China as well, which is comparable. I think, if anything, maybe the Saudi league slightly better than the Chinese league ever was. I think they do manage to get picked. It's probably a risk for him, but at the same time, if he sees himself as going in the car park there for a year and then disappearing back over to Europe, you know, you'd hope you're fine for the Libertadores and no worries, you know.
Yeah. I mean, look, he's 25. He can go out there, set himself and his family up for life, come back 2-3 years' time. Yeah, it'll be 28, and there's still plenty of time for a career in Europe and stuff like that. So again, it is sad but you know, we don't like to see these players go. We'd like to hoard everyone and stuff, but that's just the nature of things. And as I said, he's done a good job. He's a champion now, which is great. So what I'm liking is that a lot of these players that are maybe signing off, at least they're doing it with a medal, like Trossard did now, like Martinelli's potentially going to do. Is they've at least got that in their back pocket, and there's no regrets type perspective.
I've got to ask though, Tabs, like this, I'm far more interested in what's your top Gabriel Martinelli moment. Because it's been a while since someone that we really, really, really enjoyed has left the club like this, I think, who's got a lot of moments to be able to pick from.
I was going to ask you that. I was going to ask you that question, and I forgot to write out Chelsea. That the goal when he scored away, when he ran the length of the pitch, made his name fall over, Kante, and ran it. So he was still young. We were shit at the time, I think, and we got a 2-2 draw that evening.
Well, that was like the game, wasn't it? It was huge. Was it ESR? I think got the other one, didn't he, or had a big part? In
from a mistake and stuff. Yeah, I think it was from a mistake or something like that. But yeah, ESL got, I mean, maybe 1-2-1 or it was 2-2. I can't remember. It was in the rain and he ran the length of the pitch. And you know, again, he scored a similar goal against Villa. Again, that was another big moment. That was the fourth goal. And then last year, he got a massive goal. Okay, last year, he got a huge goal. That equaliser in the 90-plus minute against City, you know, after the Eze pass, a great finish. That was huge. And his Champions League performances, he's done well in the Champions League. Like he was the one that got the equaliser against Bilbao, and then Trossard scored, or vice versa. He got a goal. He got a goal against Real Madrid away in the Champions League. So sorry, I don't know if I'm stealing all your moments. What was your Martinelli moment?
I mean, it was definitely Chelsea. That was number one, and then the second was City. Sorry, my backup.
Okay.
You took my backup as well, you bastard. So just was thinking, that's like, but that's the bookends almost a little bit. I think the Chelsea goal was that real, because he'd played before that. I'd seen him in the flesh before that a few times. I've been, seen him playing some of the UEFA Cup games, and I think he'd had the odd Premier League moment. But really, it was that Chelsea game, I think, where he announced himself, right? That was the one where it felt like, this is a bit of a player here. Amongst the excitement of the time of Saka, who was playing his trade at left back, and ESR as well, it felt like we were, this was all a bit new Arsenal, wasn't it? And I think quite a few players were injured in that. And it's one of those times where actually all of the Arteta critics were giving it the he's only playing them because Willian's injured and stuff like that, and held on to that line for about 5 years, even whilst he was picking Ethan Nwaneri and whatever. But yeah, it really felt like that was a huge announcement. So for me, it's that. And then the other great one is that City game last year. It was horrible to be there for in places. I didn't have a great time that year. And that goal was just, huge sigh of relief and a big goal. So yeah. There's others. And I think generally just his enthusiasm will just be something that we'll miss, because there's something about, there's the going down, there's the frustrating moments, that enthusiasm when he's dribbling down a blind alley over and fucking over, which he's done many times and done me tits in with. And he's absolute, unfortunately, the thing the only thing that really needed to ever improve in Gabriel Martinelli's game was his decision making, and it never did. So, in fact, if anything, I think it might have got slightly worse, or at least he was asked to make decisions more because we had more of the ball. I think that's what happened to Gabriel Martinelli. And I think still in Europe and in other games and big games, when we had less of the ball, he was still one of the best players in our team to deal with those games. Weirdly made him a big game player. What I was sick of seeing was him at the Emirates against like Norwich. It was just like absolutely zero ability to be able to make the right decision as and when it's needed, But I will miss him, because I just think his raw enthusiasm, and he was such a ray of sunshine at the time when there was a lot of dark clouds around the Arsenal. We needed individual players to, Matteo Guendouzi was a ray of sunshine for about 5 minutes. It was that fucking dark, you know what I mean? And then he managed to hang around for 7 years and win a title. So Gabriel Martinelli is the one that wins out. He's the great one out. One of the great ones out of that bunch of kids that were breaking through.
Talking about Guendouzi, did you see the shenanigans in Turkey, like winding up? I think for he was playing for Fenerbahce. I think he scored or something like that, and he was still like giving it all. There was fighting on the pitch and stuff like that. And I saw some tweets saying he'd be a good heel if he was a WWF wrestler. So, but yeah, look, you can't fault Gabriel Martinelli's attitude, his work rate. I said one of the other things as well. He did his defensive work, up and down and all the rest of it. I think the one thing we'll get onto it in a minute is how do we replace, because he has pace, but with that pace you need the football intelligence and maybe that piece that just hasn't developed. And he's 278 appearances, 62 goals, not a bad return, 36 assists, so that's one in three goal actions per appearance. 191 in the league, 41 goals, 24 assists, and in the Champions League he got 33 appearances, 10 goals. So that's 1 in 3 again for goals and 4 assists. So there is output there. Again, just normal footballing stuff. We've outgrown him. Go away and continue with the career. Get your family sorted and enjoy the rest of your career. And just be happy. I don't mean this in patronising. Be happy for the experience you've had over the last 7 years. Take that rather than what you might not get happen in the future. You've got a really good catalogue to look back on and experience. With that in mind, how would you feel if we didn't replace him? I don't know if we've got a replacement lined up. We'll get onto Alvarez in a second, but at the moment you've got Zolis, which is great, but we don't want to bury him in the ground. And also he could be shit. We've only just seen him one or two games against Coventry and some pre-season stuff, so we haven't really seen him proper. And we've got Eze, who he played 4 or 5 games left wing, and he's more of an inside left rather than a traditional winger. Do you think we need to replace like for like, or let's get onto the Alvarez discussion, or someone like Alvarez good enough in terms of a one in, one out?
I mean, I think before Eze, you're probably talking Madueke, probably having an opportunity on the left quite a bit as well, and you might even talk about Ethan Dowman playing a little bit there as well. He has played there in youth, but I mean, Christ, yeah, he's still at the age where he can mould and be whatever the hell you want him to be.
Yeah, he can play anyway. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but there's opportunities there. The other thing is also whether we necessarily want to play with the degree of width on the left with the number of central players that we have at the moment as well. Maybe we go to the old Christmas tree formation that was doing the rounds in the in the 90s all the time, where you had no wingers. But yeah, I don't know. It is a bit of an interesting one. It feels obviously light to go from, to know that both Trossard and Martinelli, who dominated our minutes on the left last season, will both be out of the club. And in their place is one player who feels very much of, weirdly, a mix of the two profiles, which is quite interesting. Is a, yeah, I don't know. But he's mixed the two profiles, but he's very unproven, right? And that is a little bit of a concern. But as I say, I think behind them, I'm not in the position that I think like Noni's some terrible, awful player at all. I think Noni Madueke has got a lot of value. I think he suffers at times, like many players, that when you're drifting in and out of a team, it's quite hard to get your rhythm, and you don't necessarily contribute in the best way possible. And I think, again, as I've said a million times, if he didn't play for Chelsea before us, he'd get a lot more slack off people. I do think Noni Madueke played on the left a little bit last season, early on in the year, before we were in a position where we were generally lighter on numbers on the right than we were on the left. He was getting quite a few opportunities there, and some people were making the case that, maybe he'll get in ahead of Trossard, who's inconsistent, and Martinelli, who hasn't done anything for a while, prior to the fact that both them started really turning up in a lot of matches. Martinelli was dominating the Champions League, and Trossard was, quite frequently coming up with a goal contribution that won us games. I think he can do a job there. So I think that's what gives me a little bit of solace. I do have a feeling that what the club are doing is going, we need the money in the bank, we need to try and make the big signing, and we're hedging our bets for Alvarez at the minute, because you're not really hearing anybody else on the left, are you? No. We've been curiously quiet in that respect. I don't, obviously, since Vinny, basically, I haven't really heard anybody linked. Whether there is actually a player to pivot there to, and we're just waiting to get Martinelli out the door, and then we've got that quiet deal that's just ready to be made, I don't know. But I mean, Christ, I don't know who it is. I don't have anybody sort of actively on the market. But then Zolis was not somebody being linked with a load of clubs, was he? So maybe there is a little bit of another Christian Zolis out there that we don't know about, that we're ready to pounce on.
Maybe. I mean, the people who looked like, there was Yildiz from Juventus, but apparently I think he's injured now. But also he's got that chronic patella tendonitis, and and that just makes me feel uneasy getting some of that, because those things don't clear up easy. That's long-term chronic. The word chronic's in there. That means it's long-term.
And you've just said a million times off for sale anyway, right? But everyone's got a number. There was Ndiaye from Everton. Everton, apparently rumours City are looking at him. Again, is he really a winger, or is he just like another Eze regen sort of thing? He looks tricky, comes inside. He's not offering that sort of thing. I don't know. Obviously, there was Barkla, but things like that's now Liverpool seem to be sorting that one out. That's inching ever closer to be concrete. I think they've agreed something 100 to 120. I saw here today from, was it Indy Carla, who sometimes is actually quite good as a source. Arsenal did make a late move for Barkla, but too late. Liverpool had done all the groundwork, the player was locked in, and apparently we were ready to match the fee, but I don't know how much truth there is in that. So the Barkla was the option. I think, at the time, I don't think we have our valuations, and I just don't think 100 million, 100 plus was anywhere we wanted to go. So it feels like
all our eggs are in the Alvarez basket. And no, look, he's not. He can play anywhere across the front three. I think he can play off the left. Is he a left winger? No. There's a lot complications, but no. But it's he really wants Barca. Barca really wants him, but Atletico Madrid won't sell to him. They've categorically said 0%, and he is very much persona non grata as far as the fans are concerned. That at the weekend he was getting badly booed and all the rest of it by the fans, and Simeone's not exactly backing him up now. And as I said, Atletico Madrid are adamant that they are not going to sell him. So it seems like we're waiting in the wings to see how it plays out, but we're sort of keeping our powder dry, waiting to see if he's once he shows an inclination that we could be a get out, an option for him. It could be. Yeah, we could be stepping in. I think we've got everything ready to go, just to make it happen. But do you think something like this is worth pursuing? Are you concerned by the fact that he really wants Barca, or he only wants Barca? This stuff goes on all the time.
Not really, to be honest. I mean, he's a top class player, right? So you want him at the club. There's no doubt about that. It makes you a little bit less, sort of gooey than the player that you hear desperately wants to be at the Arsenal, right? I mean, it is what it is. It's not. This is not going to be as romantic as Declan Rice or Eberechi Eze, right? But it is. It's fine. He's a top elite player, and with the position that he's in, if we manage to get a deal done for him, fantastic. The interesting bit is, I mean, he's not a left winger. He played 2 games where he was allocated as a left-sided player for Atletico last season. His heat map shows him drifting into the wide channels on a regular basis, but he's not a winger. Like he's just not. He's absolutely a number 9 who likes to drift about, run the channels, and he's operating a lot of the time in those wider areas because he's with an Alexander Sorloth, a big lump of a bastard that wants to be in the centre the whole time. So he's taking up his space. But I think he's top class. I think he's absolutely top class, and I'd have him in an absolute heartbeat. And if we did sign him, I mean, shit, what a statement, and what a squad that is. And at that point, you go fucking. Put anyone you want out on the left by all means, Mick. I'm sure we'll get it done, because it does feel like it's top stuff. The player whose position it feels like it would really make difficult is Victor York at that point, right? Which I know he's been linked with moves away and whatever, but that's the player that you feel would be massively threatened by.
Well, how would you feel if Gyökeres went in the opposite direction to get this deal done?
Absolutely no problem at all. Absolutely no problem at all. I mean, look,
wait, why don't you just think about this for a second? Why don't you just pause and have a think?
I mean, to be honest, mate, it seems to me like if you can get a little bit of value out of Victor that way, brilliant. No worries. Like, if you want to value him as a mate weight of 50 million in that deal, fucking do right. Let's have him now. If you're telling me we can get a deal done for basically a Martinelli fee, a Victor Gyökeres, and maybe 20-30 mil on top, oh Jesus fucking Christ, sounds like a deal of the century. Again, Victor Gyökeres went up massively in my estimation throughout last season, right? Absolutely no doubt. He is still what I would call he's a lower tier 2 striker, maybe top of tier 3, right? I've been doing a lot of NFL reading this week, and they're all about the tier lists. But he's in that kind of grade for me still. He's worked his way up from what I felt was like, a lower tier 3, tier 4. Julian Alvarez within that equation of current number 9s is like a lower tier 1. He's not Kylian Mbappe, but Christ, there aren't many better. Like there's literally only, if I think of players in the world that are better than him as a 9, I'm thinking Erling Haaland, I'm thinking Kylian Mbappe, and I'm starting to run out of names then. I'm like, who else? Is there anyone else? Harry Kane. There you go. I've got them 3. But outside of them, he might be top 5 in the world at the moment. And the deal to me seems like the money that has been quoted, the 150 actually, I think it is, isn't it? So in fairness, is a large amount. But it doesn't, funny enough, it doesn't scare me. It doesn't feel like it's totally out of line for that player at all. It feels like that's how much you would expect to pay for that player.
Yeah. No, you've convinced me actually now. No, but it's not that I wouldn't do it. It would just make me feel uneasy, and maybe it's not that I've got a particular attachment to Gyökeres. Don't know. And I asked my son the same question: would you do it? And his instant reaction was no, I wouldn't. And because
really, that's really interesting to me. Why?
Well, I think it was more from an emotion. I think from an emotional point of view, we find it hard. I think from what you've just said there. Yes, it sounds like a no-brainer. It's purely because what he did for us last season, what he gave for us, and it feels very harsh because he played a role that he wasn't expected to play in because of Havertz was injured, and if it wasn't for the likes of Gyökeres, we would not have won the league. So it just feels harsh for we get this player in. He really wanted to come to us. We pushed it. He came in. He helped us win the league, irrespective of his abilities, of his skill set, whatever. He scored. He was our top scorer. And so it feels very harsh then just use him as a make weight to replace and get out. Now, this is the harsh realities of football. There's sometimes no room for sentiment. I think there is room for sentiment. So it's from that level, it feels quite harsh because we all have a very big attachment to the team that won the league last year. And in a way, I feel I got more of an attachment to some of the newer people than the longer standing people because that's it. They've peaked at that and that's it. So it's from that point of view.
I get it. I get it. I mean, it feels like Johnny Artson to me.
I find that hard.
Feels like Johnny Artson to me. Like, so we had that seat. Well, in fact, it might actually, Chris Kiwamiya might have actually been more the intended Victor Gyökeres, but nonetheless, Johnny Artson kind of ended up being the one. But what you've got to think is that, like, I mean, that's the comparison I'd make, is to go, Johnny Artson came in because Alan Smith, unfortunately lost his battle with injuries and had to retire. Kevin Campbell needed to go and play football somewhere else and was too similar to Ian Wright really to play alongside him. And we had what's his chops, and Wrighty himself got his ban in 94, 95, right? And we bring in Johnny Artson during that season along with Chris Kiwamiya, and they're brought in basically just to, nobody in the fucking world thinks that Chris Kiwamiya is ever going to be Arsenal standard long term. Massive cult hero of mine, love him, but he's not. And Johnny Artson similarly as well. Even he was 19 at the time, so quite young. But he, on the other hand, you had a bit more faith in. You thought, well, maybe he's going to do some things, and actually, he can be the new Alan Smith. And so I attached to him right away. Especially there's something iconic about a 6'4" ginger bloke from Swansea suddenly pitching up front that wants to headbutt everybody. But and Johnny Artson I attached to right away. The thing is, the very next season, Righty no longer, is injured, and we signed Dennis fucking Bergkamp. So, okay.
I was wondering where you were going with that.
So, funny enough, Johnny Artson managed a few more months, and then we got rid of him. Why? Because we signed Dennis fucking Bergkamp. Because you got
Dennis Bergkamp.
So, what you've got to think there is... And then in addition, the real nail in the coffin was we get, Nicholas Anelka in the summer and off he goes, and he fully goes off to West Ham. But, Johnny Artson basically, was a very likeable and, had a bit of a cult around him and was, I think, the most expensive young striker or the most expensive teenager in Britain when he was signed for us. You genuinely, people will forget he was highly rated and we thought he was going to be a real player and he was going to be the new Alan Smith. But when you've got the option of Dennis fucking Bergkamp, and then indeed Nicholas Anelka after it,
is that his official middle name?
That's what in this particular scenario, he is Dennis fucking Bergkamp. But yeah, I've come prepared.
DFB.
But he absolutely, he was so good that you get rid of anyone else for him, right? So that's the position I think you're in, is just and we've had that before. And I just think ultimately, Victor Gyökeres, the difference with him and Johnny Artson is he's won a title and he's given us some memories in that respect. But I'm sorry, Victor Gyökeres, I still maintain, despite the fact that he absolutely exceeded my expectations last season. When I said he was an upgrade on Eddie Nketiah, I still kind of mean it. I still don't think he's not a special player. He's just a much higher quality, much more consistent version of an Eddie Nketiah, right? And this player, on the other hand, is like, he's not quite a Dennis Bergkamp because there's none of them left in the game, sadly. But he's in that tier, right? He's in that tier where you look across the world, and if you're looking across the world and you're struggling to name players you'd rather put in that position, then you sign that player and you let anyone go. You know, with the exception of, I will get gooey over a Bukayo Saka or something like that, right? But you know, if you asked me to be, if I was being completely honest, if you asked me, Ezri Konsa starts at centre half, Saliba goes, and you get a Julian Alvarez, I'd consider it. That's how good he is to me. Because I think the drop off between a Saliba and a Konsa, for instance, is not that big, and I think the upgrade on Alvarez versus anyone else in that position at the Arsenal is that big.
Wow. Okay. Look, I mean, we'll leave that debate for another, but it's interesting because I would say, so you would even put him above Kai. Okay. Which is interesting because I think they got
as a
similar...
striker and as a, you know, properly, 100%. And also Kai can't stay fit, and availability is an ability.
That's it. I mean, look, I think he would be a very good player for us. I think he's very much an Arteta player. I think, you know, he works hard, presses well, he's talented, got great output. You know, maybe not the numbers we expect. I think he's only broken 20 goals once in his career. He's got Premier League experience, can play anywhere across the front three. So I think apparently the issues are that I think he's becoming open to the idea. I think even one of the betting companies were putting it 8 to 11 that he was going to come to us. I think look, if we could, I'd happy for a deal with or without Gyökeres. I think if we do a deal, we won't involve Gyökeres because those things are hard to sort out. You know, I think, you know, we could have him, and I think there's been talk about, you know, we have him for 2 years and we put in a sell on clause, and he can have his dream move to Barcelona when he's 28 because, you know, Lewandowski went to Barcelona when he was old. People go there. People go to Spain or Germany like Kane and stuff and still have very, very good careers. So we have him for a couple of years. I think if he comes here, the Barcelona stuff forgotten. He's like, all right, I want to go to Barcelona, but hey, I'll have a great time at Arsenal. So I don't think he would down tools because that wouldn't happen. I think Arteta can also convince him as well. I think the main trouble with England is that, well, it's not Spain. I think he's got a very close-knit family unit, and there's maybe some visa issues. So if he would come, but if his family can't, then that might, you know, cause issues. And we've discussed in the past, and it's become more prominent now that, you know, people's personal lives and being a footballer have a big impact on your ability to perform and want to be somewhere. So I think there are elements to that thing. What do you think? I mean, this sort of stuff happens. So I said he's persona non grata with the fans. Simeone's not exactly backing him up. He's sort of making it clear he wants to leave, and he looks miserable. He's not been at training the last couple of days. Do you still think the more likelihood is that he will stay at Real Madrid and you just ride this out? You ride out the booze, and as soon as the Madrid derby comes up, which is in 2-3 weeks' time, he scores a couple of goals, all is forgotten? Or do you think we're in pole position?
I think we're probably in pole position of teams that aren't called Barcelona. And Barcelona, as for good reason, are sort of in pole position, but have got a penalty against them, right? So, you know, it's, I don't know. It's really hard to say, isn't it? You know, do I think it's more likely than Vinicius Junior was? Yes, very clearly for me. Do I think it's a done deal? No, there's nothing indicating that at all. So do I think that he can have another year at Atletico Madrid, and do I think that nobody will give a shit in a month's time if the transfer window shuts? Absolutely. So, you know, look, there's all sorts going on there. I would love it to happen. I'd absolutely love it to happen. But, you know, if it doesn't, it doesn't. Weirdly, it's not one. I mean, again, I didn't get that hung up over the Vinicius one either. But I'm not like, you know, hedging anything on this. And I think actually this is where it's different to deals in previous summers where we have got very excited about something and really wanted it to get over the line. It's just that the squad's that good that, you know, even though I think it's a huge elevation that really puts a mark out there to get this player in, I still think, you know, we're in pole position for the league without it. So.
Yeah. No, I agree. But it'll be interesting how Berta will be seen, how Arsenal will be seen, how Son will be seen. There's that we potentially, if he doesn't come, and I think it's 60-40 that he stays, 70-30. I don't know. I still, I think the family thing, the visa thing is big. It's just, how much does he not want to be at Atletico Madrid now, and how appealing Arsenal can be from a holistic perspective. But if we miss out on 3 high profile signings, so Rodgers, Vinny Jr. and Alvarez. Now, they all, if we missed out on them, it'll be all for 3 very different reasons. Chelsea overpaid. Vinny, it was a long shot. Was always going to maybe stay at Madrid, but we got close. And then Alvarez, because of family reasons, he doesn't want to move. But it could potentially reflect. I don't know. Just not. That we can't get these big deals done. Yeah, and people will just read the headlines. They won't see the nuance as I've just explained, and they'll just say, "Oh, you went for your 3 big targets. You got none of them done. Can you not get that done? What's up with Arsenal?" Sort of thing. So it'd be interesting how that potentially plays out. But yeah,
By
I
the
just
way,
wanted to say
Chelsea,
also.
just a little bit of breaking news. Chelsea have officially agreed a deal for Emi Martinez.
Yes,
Just former
I remember
Arsenal
that.
player news.
If there were ever 2 sets of cunts that were more suited for each other, then it's Emi Martinez and Chelsea. They are a match made in hell, heaven, whichever way you want to see it. They are just, they are made for each other. And fuck them
Shame
both.
though, because that's Chelsea finally got their goalkeeper. Mind you, he looked a little bit dodgy last season. They are grabbing him at the very end of his career, and
I think he's lost. He's an upgrade on Sanchez, but then again, you and I are an upgrade on Sanchez.
I better say, mate.
Yeah, it doesn't take much. Even Kepa's an upgrade on Sanchez. That's how bad he is. But he's still he's on the way. He's on the down. He's on the way, and he's not the great goalkeeper he was. But he will make a bit of a difference. But yeah, I was just going to say, when you were doing your John Hartson story, I just said, well, you appealed at least to 50% of our demographic who are aged over 45. Because I was wondering whether you were going with that one. And Jamie's wearing a Bergkamp top instead. That's why he said he was prepared. So for those that are not watching on the video.
If you're not on the video, you couldn't see that. Fair enough.
You couldn't see him showing off his DFB 10 top. Okay, so that's that. Right. Moving swiftly on and talking of Villa players, etc. We play Aston Villa on Monday, so still, this is Thursday night, so still a good three and a bit days away. 8:00 Monday. Second game of the season at Villa Park. But before we get there, what did you make of Arsenal last week against Coventry? Were we good or were Coventry bad? Or a bit of both?
I think, I don't want to say Coventry bad. I want to say Coventry adjusting and getting a rude awakening, turning up at the Champions in a very sort of domineering, we're confident, let's play with a bit of freedom and really enjoy ourselves fashion, The one player who was bad for them was their keeper. I thought, unfortunately, had a bit of a, not a massive mare, but, should have been a bit better for 2 of the goals. And bit of a shame for him as well, because I think he was their player of the season last year and has just signed for 20-odd million from a loan spell. But no, I thought I thought we were really good, really, really good. We gave no opportunity at all. And that's what this Arsenal team can do at times. And I think, the real plus side is now, you combine it with the Charity Shield, and there is just this little bit of like, we're going to be business-like, but we're also pressure off. We're smile on our face whilst being business-like, And I know that Mikel said stuff along the lines of we're playing exactly like we were before. Fucking weren't. The last 3-4 months last season weren't anything like this, were they? We didn't really have any games like this. They were tense, they were tetchy, and players looked like they were either wounded or under severe duress. And the difference now is in this game, I thought the boys looked free. They looked like they were enjoying it. And look, it's a lower standard of opposition. You get one or two things with a newly promoted team. You've just had two of them come up and win their games, right? Coventry are not mugs. I think Coventry have the best chance, or I thought going into the season, Cov had the best chance of staying up out of the three. It's very debatable between them and Ipswich, but I think they're a really, really good team. I think Frank Lampard's a fantastic manager. And I think they've got a really, really good, well-structured defence, well-organised, and a little bit of just enough quality that they might be able to scrape by. I think they still need a signing or two. But they are, they're no mugs at all. And they've been turning teams over in the Cup, in the Premier League teams over in the Cup for a couple of years because they've got that structure. They've got that ability to play like a Premier League team, even if their talent might not have quite adjusted yet. But I thought that we just turned up, asserted ourselves and said, there you go, you've got no chance. You're not impacting this game. And that's
yeah, I mean, I saw this, there was this clip on X or whatever on the socials, like a 2-minute 30 clip of us in the first half versus Coventry, where we just kept the ball so well. We were playing it around and Coventry could not get any near us, and we were pass and move. And it wasn't pass and move like the horseshoe of death type stuff. It was sort of probing, and eventually it came to that chance that Ben White had where he actually took it with his left foot, and I went, hurrah, someone's shooting with their own wrong foot, but it was blocked, but and it was just so good. And yeah, you're so talking about rude awakening. Coventry just could not get near us, and they were chasing shadows, and it must have been hell for them. And my main point is that we take this for granted, and it was just so good. And I just want to sort of actually, sometimes you've got to sit back and think, bloody hell, just the way our team moves and you look at it, and just the moving, the rotation and the positioning and the little touches that we just keep the ball for like 2.5 minutes, and then we create a chance. And it wasn't like possession for possession's sake, or it wasn't just passing around the back. It was just so nice to see. It was sort of like balletic at times, just the way it does, and there was a bit of a and in the middle of all of it was Odegaard. He's back to when we were saying when he was at his peak, he lends people the ball, and then when you say something like that in football, you know exactly what you're meaning, and it's sort of like, it was just so cool to see, and that I think summed up the difference. I mean, we took our chances and they made a couple of mistakes, but it just summed up what we are like versus a team like Coventry, and just so hard for them to, they're just knackered without the ball.
And I mean, also really, I think word for Ben White as well is overlapping and his understanding with Saka. And I think, actually, I sometimes I watch Ben White back with Saka, and I do think we miss him. I think sometimes with Timber. I think Timber is so good at so many things that you just forget that, like, Ben, which I still don't think Ben White was as bad at as some people make out, right? Okay, just put it out there. But I think genuinely you just look at him with Saka, and I think when you got that Odegaard, Saka, White axis and it's working, you just go, oh, that's just brilliant, isn't it? And I've missed it, because that triangle is just bloody gorgeous to watch play football at times, and I really enjoyed that. I liked that, there was the no look release from Saka into Ben White, which you just go, oh, you see, it doesn't really happen with Timber. It doesn't really happen with Jurriën Timber, actually a lot of the time Timber's overrunning it, or he's trying over to it, or he's trying to but he does other things brilliantly, and I'm not moaning about Jurriën Timber, but it's just nice to have a bit of Ben White action back in my life, and I'm really enjoying it. And I think he suits these kind of games, and you know what? Hopefully, if he can stay fit and stay in form, hopefully you keep the fella around and you get to play him in a lot more of these games where Jurriën Timber gets to have a rest as well, and we maybe manage the two of them in a way that we haven't necessarily seen when each of them have just been running their guts out, in a particular portion of their Arsenal career. And then the other one is MLS. Yeah. It's just, again, it's lovely to see MLS having another good game, another very good game, and allowing Declan Rice to play a slightly different role in the team as well, and taking a bit of pressure off him, because, actually MLS can do a little bit of progressing too. And it's going to be super interesting to see how he gets on rest of the season with Bruno and Zubi there. But again, absolutely fantastic to see at the moment Arteta continue to trust him. And again, I would say, in the midfield, he was a 7.5, 8 out of 10.
So, I mean, okay, whilst we're talking about the players, we'll go back to looking forward to, not looking forward to. But so we're talking about, let's go to the lineup because you're talking about players. You mentioned MLS. Arteta said Bruno, he should be available for the Villa game. Konza should also be available, even though I think he only came back to training last Monday, so how ready he is. But yeah, what do you think? What do you think the lineup will be? And then again, like Coventry, what's the bench going to be like? And would you start Konza? So there you go. There's three things for you there.
Don't start Konza. I think you need another. I think you maybe bring him on depending on how the game's going. I think you potentially see him coming on off the bench, but I don't think you start him. And I with Bruno again, I'm sort of maybe feeling the same. I think you take the Cov team into the Villa game, with the exception, who was he got injured against? Cov. Somebody got a knock, didn't they?
Against Coventry? No, I think
somebody get a knock.
Was,
all right.
I think
I thought somebody went off with a knock at some point, but yeah, fair enough. But anyway,
it was Bruno in the Community Shield. He was the only one that's had a knock. I don't think anyone else did. Not reported anyway.
Fair enough. I was watching the game on a mobile phone. It was quite small because I was in a field at a festival, and just glad to have enough reception that I was able to watch the entire game on my phone. But I don't know why you just don't go with the same lineup. I think you take advantage of the fact that we're playing Villa at a fantastic time to play them. They're not prepped. They're just not prepped at the moment. They're going to be a better team in a couple of months' time. So it's a brilliant time to be playing against them right now. But at the moment, they ain't ready for this league, is how it feels for them. And especially since we've nicked Konza off, and that's really made it harder for them as well. And I just don't think you make any major changes. I think you maybe just bring on players a little bit earlier as well. You work in a few more players, and you just, I wouldn't expect Konza to be starting a game until I don't know, maybe even Chelsea.
Yeah, maybe. So Raya, White, Mosquera, Big G, Calafiori, Odegaard, MLS, Rice, and then Madueke, Havertz. No, Madueke. What are we talking about? Saka. I must have copied it. Saka, Havertz, and Solis. But okay, so that's interesting now. So then so that means on the bench, that I'm presuming then Dauman, because if we bring Konza on the bench and Bruno's on the bench, that who misses out? It has to be one of Madueke, Bruno, Konza, Merino, Zubi, Gyökeres, Kepa, Hincapié, Eze, Dauman. One of them misses out.
Kepa, because to be honest, if we needed to sting somebody in goal, I'd go with anyone else anyway.
And now what's your serious answer? Actually, the last time I remember a goalkeeper, a player going in goal, or one of the times that I remember it was at Highbury, and David Platt for Aston Villa went in goal. There you go. That's the Aston Villa reference.
Who went in goal for Villa?
Who's David Platt went in goal for Villa at Highbury one time.
David Platt. Oh, there we are. Interesting.
Ex-Arsenal as well.
Okay. Yeah, I know.
But anyway,
weird choice though, isn't it? Put a fellow who's about 5'10". I mind you, he was fantastic in the air, wasn't he? So he was all right with the eyeballs. I imagine. Fair enough.
There's only one David Platt moment that anyone remembers, and that's the header against United. So there we go. But anyway, again, we're appealing to a 50% of our demographic here. Right. Anyway, so Madueke, Bruno, Konza, Merino, Zubi, Gyökeres, Kepa, Hincapié, Eze, Dauman. Who keeps his tracksuit on?
I'm tempted to say, based on pre-season, Dauman keeps his tracksuit on, and you let Madueke disappear off the bench, maybe. But I don't know. Profiles is the interesting thing, isn't it? I honestly, I don't bloody know. I'm really at odds trying to work out what the hell you do there. And this is going to be a common thing throughout the season. Predicting that bench is going to be absolutely crazy because it is almost as hard as predicting the starting lineup now. So, not a clue, mate. I mean, it's really hard to say with the team as a whole because, and I will say this, I do think weirdly, I think he's more likely to start Bruno than he is to start Konza. I wonder if Konza even gets in. I think Konza gets in the squad for it, but it's still possible he wouldn't. I just think for whatever reason, Bruno is the guy who can go straight into the midfield, and Konza is the one that I would hold off on.
We need Konza because we've only got one defender on the bench, so you can't just have Hincapié. So we'd have to have Konza and Hincapié. For me, it's between Dauman and Marino, because Bruno can sort of cover what Marino does. Zubi's a midfielder, really, maybe even Zubi is Marino, Zubi, Dauman, and I think the age thing is going to be Dauman. I'd imagine, but because you've got Eze off the left, you've got Eze off the left, Marino, Eze off the left, Madueke off the right, Bruno, Marino up front, Gyökeres up front, Bruno. Yeah, I don't know. I'm chopping. I just feel it's going to be Dauman. He's 16.
Marino's the player that I struggle to see where he fits in most this season. I'm a bit gutted because I've got the blue shirt with the Marino on the back, which I'm absolutely delighted with. I think it just suits it down to the ground. There's something Mikel Marino about that shirt. I don't fucking know when he gets a game. Apart from, I'd probably start him quite a bit heavily up front, but I think, he's in that position where it's going to be rare. But yeah, I can see maybe it is Marino, but I think for whatever reason, I just think I'd keep Dauman on the bench. I think pre-season and where he was towards the end of last season, I think it's just that little bit of, if you're looking for somebody to go and turn a game a little bit, I think he's got that ability to unlock things,
Yeah, but and it won't be Madueke because he started Madueke over say Dauman in the Community Shield. So I can't imagine. I think Madueke's got the pecking order. But yeah, it will tell a lot. I think it will tell a lot around it. That midfield looks a bit busy. Bruno, Marino, Zubi. But do we need the extra? Yeah, I just think in terms of seniority, I think Dauman is the one. And we take it from there. But yeah, it could be anyone from Marino, Zubi, or Dauman. I reckon.
There's also the possibility that MLS pops onto the bench and becomes one of the.
When I say Bruno,
right?
Bruno and MLS on the bench. Yeah, Bruno and MLS, whatever there. But in terms of the others, that's it there. So, and look, you talk about Konza. He made 231 appearances for Villa. So showing how good his 57 clean sheets, scored 8 goals, 2 assists. But this is the amazing stat. With Konza, they got a 45% win rate in the Premier League. Without him, it's 28.1, and that's a massive drop off in terms of.
Yeah, he's absolute class though. He's been class for him for a bunch of seasons, and I'm delighted with the signing. It's a very fucking aggressive move to go out and spend 60 million on a 28-year-old that you're basically bringing in to be cover. But he's a fantastic. I think he was basically one of the. He was a notch off our centre halves for the last couple of seasons. That's where he is. He's just that notch off. Like God knows how Chelsea haven't spent, any money on him at some point. How they've managed to do as many deals as they have with Villa and still not managed to get Ezri Konsa in is a bit mental, really. The only thing I don't like about the signing, the only thing that I don't like about the signing, the one sole thing, is he supports, right?
Well, but I've also seen a picture of him in an Arsenal top. So, but yeah, I heard he's a Tottenham fan. But we can change that. That's fine. Everyone makes mistakes. Sol Campbell, people can change. Yeah, I think he's fine. He's fine.
It's nice to have a Senrad boy, though, isn't it? It's always nice to have a Senrad boy about the place. So that's good.
Yeah. So anyway, Aston Villa, humiliating defeat away to Brighton over Albion last week. Was it 4-0 down in the opening 31 minutes? An own goal, a man sent off, all in the first half. So not the greatest of seasons. But actually last season, they started slowly. They didn't score in their first 4 games. They drew 3, lost 2, won none, and only scored 1 in their opening 5. But they seem to recover well, and they actually have recovered well, and they ended up 4th in the Premier League, 20 points behind us, but they ended up 4th, 5 points above Liverpool, who were in 5th, but 6 behind Man United in 3rd. And Villa Park was a bit of a fortress up until last season, but I think they lost. They lost 5 games there last season, so even that's that's sort of deteriorating. So, and we've got actually a half decent record at Villa Park. We've won 18 and drawn 2 out of the last 28 games overall against Villa, and we think we've got a decent record at Villa Park. But their squad seems to be being decimated. Yeah, I mean, we talked about Martinez, right? He's off. Watkins, he seemed to rule himself out because he wants to move to Saudi, and so there was all that stuff pre-Brighton with Watkins, and they've lost Rodgers, they've lost Konza, they've lost Tielemans, Marlon has gone. They even I was looking at this. They even had Jadon Sancho, who's gone back to Man United. Douglas Luiz has gone to Juventus. They had Harvey Elliott back to Liverpool. So that's a big chunk of change. And they brought in Manzambi, who's the Swiss guy, who's meant to be quite good. João Gomez, who got sent off from Wolves. They got Suzuki, who's the Japanese goalkeeper. Ruggeri from Atletico. Garnacho from Chelsea on loan, and Wan-Bissaka from West Ham. But
they just signed in Goretzka, haven't they, today?
Yeah. Well, he was a free agent, and he was always. I always liked him in my in what's that computer game? I forgot. Anyway, whatever. But yeah, he's a decent.
Is he the Football Manager or FIFA? Like it's one.
No, it's the one. It's not the manager one. It's the other one. It's the FIFA. That's it. I always had him in my centre midfield in FIFA. Okay. Yeah, so that's not a decent move. That's a decent move. They're looking at Nico Jackson. I think 65 million from Chelsea. Rafael Leao, possibly, but apparently he's going to Gala.
No, Leao's going to Gala, yeah. That's been happened. That's happened today.
And Onana's out for the majority of the season with an injury. So that's a lot of change. I think last week was an anomaly. They didn't have any centre forwards. There was something not right.
They'll be slow, though. They're going to have to, because, I mean, Suzuki was on the bench last week as well. He'll be in the team.
Yeah. He'll play.
Probably be against us. Yeah. There's that last week was horrendous for them because it's like the problem Villa have is they're just not ready. Losing 5-6 players, going through a rebuild is a huge amount of turmoil. Ollie Watkins' situation is hurting them at the moment as well, but they'll have talent. They'll be a better team by the end of the season. They'll be a better team by like November, but I can just see this being a bit of a rough month for them. So I think it's a good time to play them. But you still got to think, they are dangerous. They have got decent players about, but I just don't think they're ready for, taking on a team that's got both the quality and the structure and that are in a happy place. They're in a position of, we're not quite in a happy place. We haven't quite got the structure. We haven't got all the quality quite there yet, So we should be going in there and I think, looking to pitch up and win comfortably. More comfortably than we have done at any given time against Aston Villa over several seasons now,
Yeah, I mean, they also lost Lucas Digne to PSG, so that's 2 out of their 4. Well, actually, and also Martinez going, so that's 3 of their back 5. That's not there. Their midfield
and also Gomez is banned as well. So the guy that they've brought, one of the lads they've brought in is banned because of his red card last week, and he was obviously a big, he's meant to be a big part of anchoring that midfield. So,
no, it's So right. I think if there's a time to play them, now's the time to do it. Yeah, you're right. I think, and like a lot of the clubs, yes, we're laughing at Tottenham and laughing at United, and Liverpool look a bit meh, and City a bit meh, and Villa were embarrassing. It's there's the transfer window still open. There's going to be a lot of change. There's a lot of things still to rectify. I mean, that's why we look. We need to capitalize on this moment because we look fresh. We look ready. We look the part. We look. We're the most stable and settled team out of everyone. We've got a new manager. We've not changed half our team. We're not trying to do something different. So I think we need to capitalize on this moment. It might not be easy, but we've got to go away to Villa and capitalize because they looked to shambles last week, and can they rectify that? I mean, they'll want to make up for last week, but can they actually do that? So I don't think it will be as easy as the Brighton game, but our team looks too strong. So I mean, are you looking forward to anything particular or not looking forward to anything as far as the game's concerned?
I genuinely looking forward to it. I think it's going to be the most comfortable Villa game that we've had. For seasons, I'm looking forward to not feeling like, oh, holy shit, it's sodding Villa again, and not seeing Emi Martinez, I think will be a positive as well. I know we've had the one game last season where we really enjoyed his input, but again, most of the time it hasn't been. So I'm looking forward to what hopefully will be we are taking on a team that at the moment, I think if you froze the league in time, they're nowhere near as say the club that they will be. So that really it feels like we're playing a team that's like a ragtag bunch at this moment. So yeah, I genuinely am just looking forward to the fact that they're not the Villa that they have been. What I'm not looking forward to, it's still Villa, isn't it? And they have been a real problem for us. And Ollie Watkins hasn't technically left that club yet, I don't think. I don't think there's any chance he will. But nonetheless, he technically hasn't left that club yet. We'll see. I mean, nobody else really, scares the living bejesus out of me on paper at this moment in time for him. So,
Jackson, I think, is an interesting side. Again, overpaying, I think, a bit. But I
don't think they're going to get it done in time, are they?
Well, I don't know, but I gave him shit, but basically he was a Chelsea player, and I think he got a lot of stick wrong. I think Jackson is it, and if he actually turned up at Arsenal instead of, say, Gyökeres, for instance, I wouldn't have minded, because I think there is a player in there. He was just at a batshit crazy club, and I think he got a bad rep, but he was one of these ones that had a lot of chances and missed a lot of chances, but people who score a lot of goals tend to do that. So I think that would be a good signing for them. So I'm hoping he hasn't signed in time, because you know what it's like. Person comes in, Savinho even scored on his debut. I know it was against Charlton yesterday, but they're buoyed by the new signing. The crowd will be behind it. If they don't have their new signings in, then the crowd's still a bit there after the Brighton game. But I'm actually going to the game, so I'm fortunate enough. But due to the changes Arsenal have made with with supporters clubs and away points, it's a bit easier to get certain games, and I managed to get a ticket for this. So I'm looking forward to being there, seeing another repeat performance, like Coventry. However, what I'm not looking forward to is a repeat of the last time I was at Villa Park, and you mentioned a certain DBF, and the last time I was there was the FA Cup semi-final in '99, when said Bergkamp missed that last minute penalty. Giggs scores that goal, and Man United go and win the treble. So I really don't want a repeat of what happened the last time I was at Villa Park.
What you need to do then is give your ticket to me, because I've been at Villa Park a lot, and it's generally worked out fine. It was my first ever Arsenal game was at Villa Park. It was
wow,
1993, and Ian Wright scored twice. Ian Wright scored twice to sandwich a Kevin Richardson goal. He obviously was former Arsenal as well. So. Yes,
former Villa. Yeah, I remember it. So let's hope I get different luck. So what's your prediction for the game?
I'm going to go with a strong. I'm going to go with a really strong 3-0.
Another 3-0. Well, 3-0 is the new 1-0 as far as Arsenal's concerned.
Well, it's just there's something about just sort of, we feel like a very 3-0 team at the moment, maybe that's going to be the new chant. It's 3-0 to the Arsenal. We just have to wait a while each game for it. But I'm going to go nice and bold.
Yeah, okay, I've gone 2-0. Last season we had that Buendia last minute winner. But before that, similar stage to this time of the season. The year before that, we won 2-0. Was it goals from Partey and I think it was Trossard? So let's see. As I said, it's no longer the fortress that it was. They did win. They went from winning 13 games in a row at Villa Park to then they lost 5 times, drew a couple of times last season, as I said. So maybe not the same fortress. They aren't the same team. So yeah, we should be winning it. Should's a dangerous word. And it's Unai Emery, and he always has something special for us. Okay, so very quickly, the Grove origin story. As I said, Cheech said to mark our 200th episode, to just give people a bit of a background how the podcast came about, and And yeah, basically it stems from a group called The Grove. We called ourselves a group, Grove, and about, I think, was it 2-3 years ago, someone posted on the Gunners at Games Reddit saying, look, I go to games on my own and I'd like to meet like-minded Arsenal fans who go to the games on their own, and we can meet up and have a drink and whatever. That turned out to be Shanice, our leader, and from that, a bunch of like-minded people from all over the UK, but we had people from Canada, Australia there. We've got a few Yanks in there as well, and people come down from Scotland, from Ireland. Yeah, we formed a group of about 50 of us, very diverse individuals, but as I said, common love for the Arsenal. I said, set up the WhatsApp group, and then we'd just go to games together, go for drinks together before the game, after the game, chat shit. Can get a bit fruity at times. We don't all agree, and it has its moments. But I think it's been a really brilliant thing for many people who, again, would go individually to games, who now this group has formed, a bunch of friends have formed, that sort of friends for life, and so on. And before we get to the pod, how did you feel at the time, sort of when you saw that message on the Gunners at Game Reddit, and sort of think, yeah, I fancy a piece of that?
Yeah, I thought, why not? I've been renting a season ticket for a few years. A couple of different ones. I had one prior to COVID and then one post COVID, and I've been going on the old time. And I chatted away a bit to the fellas that sat alongside me when I was in Block 93. But ultimately, I didn't. I wasn't sort of going to the pub with them or anything like that. So I had a bunch of mates that I knew that when they were at the match, I'd go and join them. But for probably half the time I was at the Arsenal, I wasn't talking to a single bugger really, apart from the fellow in the seat next to me. So to meet everybody was was pretty great. And then obviously came and met everybody and had an immediate sense of regret because there were some proper reprobates there. And also we'd picked the price. I mean, I at that time, well, up until a few months ago, obviously I lived like 10-minute walk away from the stadium. But the pub that we picked, Horatio, was one that I have loved going to for years. I've always enjoyed the Horatio. It's a nice little boozer, and it used to be one of the places I'd go and watch all the away games at. But also as well, it is like the most expensive place to get trashed. And there has been a lot of getting trashed there.
And the longest to get served. And it takes age to get served.
Yeah.
So
but it was a lovely group.
It's now the Lamb or the Coronet, or there's lots of splinter groups or inside the stadium and stuff like that, but it's fine. We still got the WhatsApp group chat going. Yeah, I mean, I was going not as frequently, but I was either going with my son and I just thought, well, why not? And I think the biggest surprise to everyone, because someone did it, and this isn't to say anything, but it was actually Shanice. We found out Shanice is this sort of diminutive, quiet girl from the was it the Black Country, sort of up from the Midlands, that sort of neck of the woods. The worst thing about her was that her boyfriend, I don't know if it's husband at the moment, was a Tottenham fan. So we had a good joke about that. But yeah, it was the fact that she was bold enough to do that, and it's, as I said, it's amazing. That's been going for 3 years now, and then within the group, there was this character, shall we say, called Moz, who came up with the idea of doing a pod. And yeah, I said I fancy it. Jamie said I fancy it. A group of us said we fancied it. And we sort of ended doing that together. And, I've sort of been on from the very beginning. And unfortunately, Moz had to give up the pod due to life reasons and whatever. And I took over the reins. And here we are, say 200 episodes later, and yeah, enjoying it, I hope, and hope you're enjoying it. And I find it a lot of fun. As a result of the WhatsApp group, but also the pod, I've met and become friends with a lot of Arsenal people now. I've met other Arsenal podcasters, and we've had some cool guests on the pod from our community casts, and one of which was Ian, who's now a regular on the pods. And so, yeah, just as a result of the Grove WhatsApp group, my life is very different to it was 3 or 4 years ago. A whole bunch of friends
and all your away trips, right? I mean, that's been pretty much all with the Grove lads, really, hasn't it?
And from there met met friends of their friends, and now met other groups and stuff like that. So the away trips and look, we've helped each other with tickets, all above board. We're just just there, so supporting each other and
been
trying to
a
help
lifeline for me
out.
since I stopped having the season ticket rentals. I'll tell you that, because when everybody was going through that initial bit when we first started finishing second was when we pretty much about the time we formed, I think, was our first season finishing second, right?
Yeah.
And because I've been renting season tickets for several years, and then before that I'd just been going on exchange back in the days where you just pitched up and it was like, fuck it, shall I go to City tomorrow? Yeah, all right, no worries, I'll log on now. Oh, there you go, there's 37 tickets to choose from. Cool, all right, I'll have that one. Balls to it, let's get ourselves in at the City game, why don't we? And that was easy, right? The only games that were a problem at all at that point in time were basically Tottenham, and occasionally you might want to slightly plan ahead for like Chelsea and United, and that was about it. But genuinely, like the switch and change from then being dropped into, I'd heard all this palaver off everyone else with the TX, and I was like, that's terrible. This, thank God I'm renting this season ticket. When I got dropped into that, I was not prepared for it at all. So the fact that everybody pitches in together, and actually, I think a lot of us, as you say, it's all above board, but it's just literally the fact we've got somebody generally at any given time, somebody is on having a look at what tickets are about and giving somebody a shout and whatever. And when you manage to, sort somebody out, who's been looking for a ticket, and you go, oh, I've found one here. Can you get yourself logged on or whatever? It's a great feeling, and helps out a bunch of mates in terms of being able to get into the ground.
Yeah. No, we got a real buzz. I think a lot of people were just doing it because the buzz that I've helped someone get a ticket. And
the ring the bell era was pretty big, wasn't it?
Ring the bell. Yeah. That was huge. That sort of died down a bit because it's getting harder and harder and stuff like that. But anyway, so we're just a bunch very diverse. But a good bunch of people, and at any one time there's 10 or so people at a pub, from the Grove, be it the Lamb, the Coronet, the 12 Pins, or Horatio, or within the stadium. So so thank you, Shanice, for that. Our lives are very different as a result of that one post on the subreddit. So where we go from here, who knows? Just again, thank everyone for who's been part of this show, past and present. We and all the rest of it. And also, I mustn't forget Darwit behind the scenes, who helps with the artwork and some technical items. But I found it a lot of fun. I really appreciate you guys listening. I hope, Jamie, you've enjoyed it. Well, you're still here, so I hope you're finding it enjoyable. And
Darwit's main job is being young enough to know how YouTube works, basically. Like, that's essentially it.
YouTube and Canva, and that's it. But he's great behind the scenes. And as I said, look, thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for engaging on the various socials. And here's to the next 200 episodes, and R.I.P. Barry. Right. Anyway. In joke, sorry. Okay. Right. So thank you, Jamie, for this evening. As always, my 1 hour long pod is not 1 hour long. So thank you for that. And he just gave a thumbs up. He's not very good at saying no problem. Right. Anyway, for those not watching on the video, you can follow us at the Grove AFC on Threads, YouTube, X, Insta. I don't know. I can't remember what are they on. TikTok. That's the other one. Also, you can on our podcast apps on Apple, Spotify, YouTube at the Grove AFC. Leave us a like, follow, subscribe, rate, comment, all that jazz. Our next pod will be our second episode of our new After Review pod on Sunday evening, where we review the weekend's Premier League fixtures with a bit of an Arsenal lens, and we get inputs from other fans who send in voice notes. So friends of mine and Gianluca's who send in voice notes, who either been to the game or have watched it. You've got
to put more of a space between in and voice there, because I was just there going, why are people sending him in voice notes? What's going on here?
All right, they are sending in voice notes of their view on the game from
all right. I'm just thinking you're just getting itemized, like
all right. They send me audio messages of their thoughts on the game for their football team. So like Sunderland, Liverpool, we even had Spurs, Man United. We had one guy, a Spurs fan, who said that they were sending in an audio message from Japan. And during the Tottenham game, he said there was like a 6 on the Richter scale earthquake, and he said that wasn't the worst thing about that evening. So, so there we go. So yeah, tune into that, and then we'll have the main pod on Tuesday post Villa after we win 2-0, 3-0, whatever. Okay, that's it. There we go. Thank you again for listening. No pithy comments this time. So until the next time. Come on, you Gunners.